My partner's daughter, 20, is, well, awful. She was a pretty dour kid and often made things very difficult in our house with extreme meltdowns and mean behaviors towards my daughter. This was always an issue for my daughter, 23, but she handled things pretty well and understood the position I'm in with her stepmom. But our coexistence all came crashing down 2 years ago when my daughter unleashed on her stepsister and sent her a long angry message about how she was treated and her opinion of her. In my opinion, her stepsister was indeed horrible, but my daughter is 3.5 years older and should have understood the tight spot I was in and been the bigger person. Stepdaughter is still a little moody, but she stopped being mean to my daughter a few years ago. Time has passed, and it's time to move on. This understandably made things very difficult for me. My wife dislikes my daughter now, and my stepdaughter hates her. My daughter has barely spoken to me for the last 2 years since I moved across the country with her stepmom and blew up at me about stuff that happened in the last 10 years with her stepmom and sister. Pretty childish tit-for-tat stuff like not getting new stuff like her sister, the food in the house being stuff her sister liked, or her sister being mean to her with no interference from us. She claims it rose to the level of aggression, but my own sister, a teacher, said that's just how siblings are, and I agree. She thinks her stepmom treated her sister better, but my wife was very kind to my daughter by thinking of her at all. Many step-parents wouldn't, and she was never mean to her, only disliking her to protect her own daughter when mine decided to be confrontational. My wife is the breadwinner, and I am not my daughter's only parent, so she did not have to have everything be equal in my house. My stepdaughter, on the other hand, only has her mother, so of course things were slightly skewed in her favor at ours. That's the way it should work. On to the issue at hand. She came to visit for the first time and saw that we don't have photos of her in the house. I have photos of her in my office in the garage, but she's upset that there were none of her in public in the house, unlike stepdaughter. My wife doesn't want to subject my stepdaughter to photos in the house of someone who messaged her telling her she was a brat, and I can't blame her. Stepdaughter lives here, and daughter doesn't. Why would we have photos of her in view of stepdaughter? Yes, the a-hole. You can't expect your daughter to put up with stepdaughter's behavior just because she's older. If stepdaughter was indeed horrible, you needed to be a parent and have her stop, not make your daughter put up with it and punish her when she snapped. You shouldn't be playing favorites either. I hope your daughter never reaches out to you again. She deserves better. OP, you clearly do not love or even care about your daughter. You allowed her to be a victim, unfavored, and disliked in her own home. You spoil and favor your stepdaughter over your own daughter, and the lack of photos of her just prove it. You don't even care to put her on the same level as your stepdaughter, and are okay with your wife and stepdaughter erasing her for daring to stand up for herself. You are a failure as a parent. I hope she goes no contact forever. I just like to say that I am happily married with a woman that I can only describe as a taller version of Balaleka from Black Lagoon. Seriously, we watched the show by our nephew's recommendation, and damn it, how they look and act alike. My wife not even denies the resemblance, and the fact that my wife is from Russia don't help in nothing to distinct her from the character. She is strong, have great leading skills, sharp wits, and is a great partner. My wife and I both work, but she earns a lot more than me, since she has a high-ranking position in a multinational company, and as far as I know, she nails it. Into the problem here. Me and my wife have very similar views on a lot of things. One of them is how to handle finances. We put 1/3 of our money in a joint account to household expenses, 1/3 on separate savings accounts, and the rest is fun money. When it comes to lend money, the rule is simple. The joint account is out of the limits, so if we want to loan money, we use our own savings or the fun money. 3 years ago, my family, mom, dad, brother, and sister, and 5 kids with the ages between 2 and 10, went into a huge amount of debt. They all live in the same house, 3-bedroom house where I grew up, and managed to carve out for themselves a massive credit card debt. So, since their credit was so horrible, they decided to ask my wife, not me, my wife, for a humongous loan. They asked her because I don't loan them money, because I know very well they are leeches and moochers. For example, my sister has 5 kids, with 5 different guys, which she keeps on the hook for child support. Luckily for the kids, their fathers are in their lives, and my brother fakes disability with my parents while selling pee. The only reason I kept the bare minimum contact with them is because I am worried about my nephews and nieces, and I am in contact with the fathers to try to help them. My wife also knows this, so when they asked her for money, she came to me to ask my opinion, because it's my family. I said that although it's my family, they are asking her for money, so the decision is hers. Long story short, she contacted an attorney and drafted a legal document that would put the devil to shame, where basically said that they would have 2 years to pay in full the value of the loan, and they needed to give the house as collateral. My family isn't the sharpest knife on the drawer, so they accepted. Well, the 2 years had passed, and they don't have the money. To be honest, they don't have any money. My wife put an eviction order since now she legally owns the house, and as soon as this year is over, they have to get out of the house. My wife got in contact with the fathers of the kids, and they're going to take the kids in. Now my family is begging me to convince my wife to forgive the loan, but I am not moving a finger to help them since, like I said, it's my wife's money, and now everybody in the extended family is calling me a-hole. So am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. My guess is the plan all along was to not pay her back. As soon as she got a lawyer involved, they should have backed out. It was incredibly dumb for them to sign away their house and expect her to not kick them out because they're family. Your wife is a shark, and I respect that. I would just laugh when they call you an a-hole, like you could talk your wife out of evicting them. Not the a-hole. This is between them and your wife, and they entered into a legal agreement that they should have kept in mind if they wanted to keep their property. This is 100% on them, and they deserve exactly what they got. Not the a-hole. Laughing my butt off. You refuse to lend them money because they will not repay it. Why your wife lent them the money, I have no idea, but she took collateral. Now they want you to try to intervene? How does that go? Not your monkey, not your circus? Tell your extended family that they can come up with the funds to repay your wife if they are so concerned. I, 29 male, own my own home. This will be relevant later. My mom, 53 female, lives with me as she lost her job a couple years ago. Long story, not very relevant. A year ago, she began dating again and met R, 47 male, and they have been in a relationship for 6 months. When Global Issue began, I agreed to allow R and his kids, 14 female, 12 male, to come live with us. Now, I've met R enough times that we know each other as friends, but not close friends. I'm just happy my mom is moving on. He immediately began laying down rules he expects all the kids to follow. And I thought, fair enough, you have rules for your kids, it's not my business. Of course, he put out a reasonable curfew for the kids. So now we get to 48 hours ago. I was feeling cooped up in the house and decided to go for a late night run with me immediately going to bed when I got back. When I woke up in the morning, I went down for breakfast. As I hit the bottom of the stairs, the living room door flies open with R on the other side, red-faced and obviously angry. He immediately shouts, "In here, now!" I have no idea what's going on, but I assumed it was to do with his kids. So I go in and he slams the door shut. So I turned and said, "Was there any need for that?" He goes wide-eyed and starts going into an angry tirade. "How dare I disrespect his rules? Your stepbrother and sister follow the rules. Why can't you? Under this roof, you show me respect. I'm your ducking stepdad." Through all this, I'm sitting on the coffee table in disbelief, getting angrier by the second. Eventually, he finished blasting off, but not before his kids and my mom come down to see what's going on. This may be where I am the a-hole. I stood up and pretty much stood nose to nose. Yeah, it's intimidating behavior, my first mistake. And I just let it rip. I asked him how dare he talk to me this way in my house. I'm a grown man. I do not follow your rules under my roof. If you can't handle that, then get out. You aren't my stepfather. You are my mother's boyfriend, and we will never have the sort of relationship you clearly misled yourself into thinking we do. I expect an apology. He packed his things and took his kids back to his own home. My mom said there was no need for me to be that nasty and accused me of going too far for embarrassing her boyfriend in front of his kids and undermining his parenting. Now she's giving me the silent treatment. Yes, R was well aware when moving in that it would be my house he is staying in. 1. I'm not kicking my mom out. She needs a therapist, not a change of address. 2. To those who were curious about my parents' marriage and how it ended, Dad was controlling and manipulative, and he hid it well, just like he hid his girlfriends. There were no fights or divorces. He was my dad, and I do care. But he played with the wrong woman and paid the ultimate price on her car bonnet. It's sad, but I can't be angry about it. Not the a-hole. You're a grown man, it's your house, and the trash took itself out. This. Oh my God, so not the a-hole. The best part is where your mom wasn't invited to go with him back to his house. Not the a-hole. You are a 29-year-old man being expected to follow the rules he implemented for a 12-year-old. Your mom should be thankful that she has an insight into her boyfriend. Not the a-hole. Some random dude literally rolled up into your house, slamming doors and yelling like he pays the bills, and his name on the title. He tried to show dominance and intimidate you. Most likely does the same to his kids, and maybe your mother. And backed the duck down when he realized that he'd met someone he didn't have control over, and could probably beat that butt. It's probably true, because his butt bounced back to his home after he was emasculated. So, on with the update. After finally talking with my mother, she has apologized. She wasn't fully aware of what had gone on, and thought I had been the one to start the argument. We spoke about R's behavior and agreed this wasn't someone she needed in her life, and that she needed a therapist. Rather than come himself, R decided to send his elderly parents around to talk with us. I was polite, but made it clear I wouldn't be discussing this with them, and instead asked them about the children's current situation. In short, they were back with their mom, and she is aware of R's behavior. She is not happy with him. R seems to be laying low for now and knows his relationship with my mom is over. Finally, I decided against charging for damage. The simple fact is, getting him away from my family as quick as possible is worth more than a door frame and a cheap wall sconce. My 16 female. Parents are divorced, so Christmas time is typically really hectic and stupid. I try to spend most holidays with my mom and her side of the family. I spend half and half, but last year I spent it with my dad full time due to the travel restrictions. This year, my mom's side is hosting at a lodge in upstate New York. I've been packing the last few days, and my dad and his wife asked if I could ask my grandparents, maternal, if the kids could come up with me. I put it off for as long as possible because I don't want them there, and my grandparents honestly don't give a rat's butt about my dad's new kids, 14, 16, 7. I left this morning and my dad asked me last night to call so he could get the kids packed, and I told him they'd said no. Him and his wife started arguing back and forth with me. The other kids were at the door listening to us argue, and I got fed up and said, "Here, I'll call and ask now." I called my grandparents and put them on speaker. I told them they were, and asked if my dad's kids were welcome at the lodge this Christmas. My grandfather's words verbatim were, "Dad's name. If you don't knock this crap off, I'll sue you for custody and take your sorry butt to the cleaners while I'm at it. It's been long enough that you've done this BS. We don't care about your new kids you've taken on. We barely care about you. But OP lives with you, so we have to an extent. Stop it already. Go leech onto your new lady's family. I'm sure they'll welcome your butt with open arms." The room went silent, and my dad's kids and their mom looked red in the face. The oldest called me a B and said she wished I wasn't part of the family. I said ditto and left it there. My dad and his wife told me to find my own way to the airport. I already have. Before I left, my dad said that I could still do the right thing and stay and have the holiday with them. I left anyhow. Since then, my dad has been telling me over text how disappointed he is with me and that I'll regret this day forever. His wife left a voicemail crying, calling me names. I've just landed and beginning to feel like crap, so I've come here for unbiased input. Not the a-hole. Not your job to organize care arrangements for your step-siblings. I may be uncharitable, but what the duck? Your dad and stepmom want to send their kids to stay with strangers for Christmas? For real. Their own parents not wanting to spend Christmas with them has to hurt way more than some random stranger not wanting to see them for Christmas. Unless they are materialistic little buttholes who only want to go to a fancy lodge. But even then, I feel like it would still hurt deep inside. Not the a-hole. Show granddad what your dad and stepmom sent you. Ask him if he's serious about filing for custody. Not the a-hole. Why in the hell would your maternal grandparents invite kids they aren't related to Christmas? Your dad is delusional and apparently married his equal. I, 27 male, and my wife, 26 female, have been together for 6 years, married for 3 months. We usually visit my wife's parents' place for dinner, and I can't stand my sister-in-law, 32 female. When my wife and I first started dating, my outgoing and sweet wife would just lose all confidence in herself around her sister. I never knew why. I asked her why she acted that way around her. She told me that her whole life her sister had tried to steal everything from her and be her. She confided in me that her sister has always been the pretty one, and she's been the loser, and that her sister used this against her, and whatever my wife liked, her sister started to like. She won't say anything. She's far too shy and hates confrontation. She just told me to please. I don't want more trouble with her. I've respected her wishes. Till the other day. My wife has trauma. She copes with collecting vintage dolls, Barbies from the 60s through the 80s. We would travel a state away every 2 months to go to a flea market to see a certain vendor. It was a treat for me and her. I got to see her heal her inner child. My wife wants an OG Color Magic Barbie from the 60s, but they go for $900 up to the 2000s. They did a release in 2003, but even that is almost $150. She told me she didn't want to pay that much right now. My mother-in-law is very interested in my wife's collection, always asking if we found one yet. My mother-in-law must have shared how badly my wife wanted that doll, because what happens a week after we tell my mother-in-law we didn't find it? My sister-in-law posts on Facebook about how she got an '03 Color Magic Barbie outside the box. My wife's face dropped. She said it was no big deal, but I could tell she was upset. Her sister had stolen a chance again. I felt awful. I went online and ended up paying $300 and something for an OG 1966 American Girl Barbie, no box. I know that's another one my wife wants. I could have bought her the $150 Color Magic Barbie, but I wanted to outdo her sister. After my wife got her doll I bought her. When we walk into my wife's parents' house, there's tension. which makes my wife small and even more quiet than normal. My wife's sister then explodes, asking why my wife had to copy and outdo her. My wife just stays silent. So I told her, she doesn't copy you. You just don't have a personality of your own. You grew up pretty, in air quotes, so you didn't form your own personality, so you leech your sister's. My sister-in-law runs into the bedroom to pout and cry. My father-in-law went to go comfort her. My father-in-law demanded I apologize to her. I refused. Now my sister-in-law has me and my wife blocked, saying she'll accept an in-person apology. My wife has a huge heart and feels awful that this huge falling out happened over Barbies. It's much more than just the Barbies, and I know it is. My wife has since packed up her Barbie collection and put it in the attic. Maybe I did take it too far, but I feel like this would have come to the surface eventually. Am I the a-hole? Update 2. Hello everyone. This is OP's wife. He let me hop on here to make a statement. As of right now, we are temporarily no contact with my parents or my older sister. It is temporary for my parents, but possibly permanent for my sister, depending on her actions in the future. As for concerns of therapy, I am indeed in therapy. My therapist knows very little about my sister because I always want to sugarcoat it to not make everyone look bad. The idea of my husband joining me would be fantastic, and I appreciate the idea. He is my rock and does make sharing experiences easier. Finally, the Barbies. They have since been moved from the attic to our spare bedroom. As of right now, my heart cannot take looking at them, as I feel guilty that my hobby became a source of conflict, even if this was unfortunately going to happen anyways. Not the a-hole at all. You are a great husband. I am so glad you two found each other. As to the sister-in-law, she has blocked you? Happy day. This person is toxic. She's not owed an apology. She is just upset that she got called out. When she calms down, speak to your wife about bringing the collection down from the attic. She owes it to herself to enjoy being around these dolls. Not the a-hole. It sounds like your sister-in-law really doesn't have a personality of her own. Just a wish version copy of your wife. She's the a-hole. An epic lifelong trauma-causing a-hole. And your father-in-law, maybe mother-in-law, are just enabling this poor behavior. I hope your wife can work through the issues her sister has caused and unpack her collection. Her sister is absolutely awful.